Amen. Amen. You may be seated. Well, it's so good to see everybody here on this Chuck Wagon Day. It's kind of weird because it doesn't feel like fall yet in the air, but yet the kids are back in school. All the summer vacations are pretty much over, and we're settling into this routine of life. So this is a great time of the year to recommit ourselves back into the community that we call the church. Welcome to church, by the way. Welcome to church. We're glad you're here. It's good to be here. Amen? Amen. 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 So I heard recently about a survey. And there's been many surveys about this, but there's a new one that came out. And it's a survey. One of the questions was this: do you attend church regularly? Now, we have to break this down because I may interpret regular church attendance different than what you do. We all have different ideas about what it is, and it's caused some people, even people in the church, to question whether they really need to be at church every Sunday. Do we really need to be at church every Monday night, every Wednesday night? But today, I hope that by the end of our time here together, I hope that we see we are called to be the church and not just a crowd. Have you ever been in a crowd and there's so many people, it just seems overwhelming? Maybe you've heard the term a wave of people or a sea of people. You're walking in this crowd and you're like walking like kind of like a penguin. You got two little steps because there's someone right here and there's someone right here behind you. And if you tried to stop, it wouldn't work because you're just going to get pushed. But see, even when we're in a crowd and when it seems so overwhelming, we can have people all around us, and yet we can still feel so alone. I'm pretty confident that if you're in a big crowd and you're being pushed by the crowd and you're trying to make it somewhere, you're not going to turn to the person on the side of you or this side of you and start talking about your financial problems. I'm pretty sure you're not going to start talking to them about your relationship problems. See, even though you're in a crowd, there's no relationship. There's no commitment. We've gathered here today for a Chuck Wagon potluck. We've gathered here for this celebration. But I want to ask you, are you a part of the crowd or are you part of the community? Here's where we are as people. Christians all over the world, they're gathering in places such as this, churches just like this. And even though we're all here in the same room, nobody knows the needs, the cares, the concerns while we're sitting here. This is the demise of the church. Even in a church this size, people can get lost. People come together, but as complete strangers. And we call ourselves a community, but yet there are people here that are just a part of the crowd. We come to church and we ask people, hey, how are you? How are you? Oh, it's good to see you. How you doing? We give the churchy answer. Oh, I'm good. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. Oh, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. My car's about to be repoed. My kids are doing who knows what. My marriage is a shame. My life's a wreck. Oh, but I'm good. Yeah, I'm blessed. Oh, it's good to see you. Glad you're here, brother. Glad you're here, sister. It's because we're a part of the crowd. For many people. See, we know we're supposed to be in church. We are told by God's word. Where's my Bible? In God's word, amen? Amen. So we come to church and we know what God's Word, it tells us. Basic instruction, it tells us we have to be in church. We hear passages like Hebrews 10:25, and it explains pretty clearly we're supposed to be in church. But I want us to look at this verse in the contemporary English version. And this is what it says. Some people have given up the habit of meeting for worship, but we must not do that. I don't think I need to clarify that. I think we're all good there. We should keep on encouraging each other, especially since you know that the day of the Lord's coming is getting closer. This verse tells us to be a part of the church. But too many people, they talk about going to church like we're going to dinner. Want to go to dinner? Sure. Want to go to church? Sure. Church has become something we do. It's not something we are. We are the church. Amen?
Amen.
So here's the reason why so many people feel like they're a part of the crowd and not a part of the community. It's because we failed to teach Hebrews 10:24. We failed to hear and live Hebrews 10:24. Let's hear this verse. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. In verse 24, what we have to get from this is we have to be intentional to encourage those around us to be the manifestation of love in this life and encourage others to do good works for Christ. Ooh, a little quiet saying on that.
Amen.
Let's break this down. Let's break it down a little bit more. Okay, Hebrews 10:24. Let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. You know, there's a lot of versions. Maybe the version you're reading right now says the word provoke. We should provoke one another on towards love and good deeds. Now, I know that everyone in here knows the word provoke. You're pretty good at provoking. I'm just saying. You know the word provoke. But so see, what we need to understand is the meaning from this is that we must do our part to provoke, to spur, to strongly motivate others to do good works, good deeds, and to love. Now, when this verse talks about love, when it says toward love, this is not the kind of love that, oh, I love you. This is not the feel-good, fluffy love. This love is the love that we are commanded by Christ to do, with the understanding that we can and we must love because our love comes from Christ. Okay? So we know this. Maybe you've heard of the word agape love. We've all heard agape love. We've been in the church long enough to hear agape love. But this word here is agape. And agape means that there is a deliberate intention. A deliberate intention. There's a purpose of our life so that our life is given to others so they become a part of the community, a part of the church, and not just a part of the crowd. We have a stake in this. We have a part in this. But we've forgotten Hebrews 10:24. We don't even live it. This love is a command of Christ, and it must be rooted so deep in us that it comes out in all our relationships. If you identify yourself as a Christian, as a believer, you must act with an intentional love to all people and spur them on to love and good deeds. Have a good day. You thought because we were having a potluck you were going to get a feel-good message today, didn't you? That's why you're so quiet. I'm now trying. Love all people and spur them on to love and good deeds. You know, we're told time and time again in Scripture, those words, one another. Do you know how many times those words are together in Scripture? It depends on which version you go, but it's between 30 and 50. Even Jesus said in John 13, 34, 35, "A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." So think about this. You send a message with everything you do. You're sending a message in the things you do, and you send a message in the things you don't do. They all send a message. Some people intentionally do not do something just to make a point. So is that the message of Hebrews 10:24? I don't think so. See, we may send a message, or we may not send a message, or not do something to send a message. But is your message self-seeking and self-serving, or does it line up with Hebrews 10:24? We just learned that our message must be an example to spur others on, to encourage them, to incite them, to provoke them, to come to know Christ and be compelled to be a part of the church. When Jesus ran into people, when he encountered people in his life, he looked past the sin, he looked past the shortcomings, and he saw the potential of the person. He looked at them in love, and he looked to find ways to encourage them to be so filled with love that they would turn and do good deeds, that they would share the love with others. They would be compelled. They would be compelled to do good works with other people. So take a moment and examine yourself. Examine yourself right here today. Are you loving in a manner that spurs others onto love and good deeds? Because if not, the message you're sending is that you don't care enough about them to draw them into a relationship. Ouch and amen. You may say, well, Pastor, I made some choices. There's some situations I avoid. There's some people I avoid. There's some churches I avoid just because, I just can't be there. And I have a peace with it. Well, let me ask you, is that peace from you or from God's Word? In the first church, the people would gather. They gather in homes. They would be faithful in meeting. They would be faithful in breaking bread together. They would be faithful in fellowship. They met in their homes. It was small, it was intimate, it was good. But if you got upset with someone in the first church, in the home church, guess what? God's Word says you were to bear with it and forgive. Look at what Paul wrote, Colossians 3:13. Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. Right. Now, I know you're perfect, okay? I know you are. But the person on your right, the person on your left, the people behind you, the people in front of you, see, they got some pretty big flaws. They got some big shortcomings. They have some idiosyncrasies that make them the way they are. And yet God's word says you are to bear with them and forgive one another. But here's how we bear with one another in today's church. I'm going to sit on this side of the church because I don't want to be around these people, or I don't want to be around these people. I don't want to, I got to be over here. Oh, I'm just going to forget it. I'm not even going to be around. That's the way we bear with one another in today's world. But there's no spiritual growing in that. There's no spiritual maturity in those actions. We're all different. We all talk different. We all act different. We all have our own failings, our own shortcomings. And yet God can use each of us in a mighty and powerful way. And when He does, He brings all of us in with our shortcomings and our failures. And He pulls us all together and He calls us the church. He calls us a community. If you have your Bibles, I want you to open them up to 1 Corinthians 12. 1 Corinthians 12. And we're going to look at this passage, and this is a passage we all heard, we all know. Paul is using the human body as an illustration for the diversity in the church. But it is in this diversity that we are made whole. We're made complete. And don't miss this, hear me. In our diversity, we are made even more powerful. So don't miss that. Stand with me if you are able for the reading of God's Word. We're going to be in 1 Corinthians 12. And we're going to start in verse 12 and go to verse 20. Here's what it says. Just as a body, though one, has many parts, but all its many parts form one body, so it is with Christ. For we were all baptized by one Spirit, so as to form one body, whether Jew or Gentile, slave or free. And we were all given the one Spirit to drink. Even so, the body is not made up of one part, but of many. Now, if the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not, for that reason, stop being part of the body. If an ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I do not belong to the body, it would not, for that reason, stop being a part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has placed the parts in the body, every one of them, just as He wanted them to be. If they were all one part, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, but one body. This is the word of the Lord. Amen? Amen. Amen. You may be seated. So do you see here how Paul uses, he explains unity as the most important characteristic of the body, meaning the church, and yet without the diversity that's in the church, it would be incomplete. Diversity is essential for the body. In the church, we're called to have one Spirit, which is His Spirit. But our spiritual maturity should be at a place where we're baptized by the Holy Spirit, which brings us into unity, so that we do His good work. And we have to be baptized by Him. We have to know who He is, because John 15:5 says, apart from me, you can do nothing. So we have to know who Jesus is. But again, we need the diversity of the church, because it is in our diversity that we have power. If we were all an ear, where would the sense of smell be? If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? We're stronger because we're different. But yet, if we do not incorporate the teachings of Hebrews 10:24, if we do not bear and forgive one another, all we are is a crowd. That's all we are. We're a crowd. Church, today is a good day for us to make the decision to stop being a part of the crowd and become the church. Be a part of the community. Be responsible for our own parts and do what we are called to be, do what we're called to do. When Paul wrote his letter to the church in Rome, he told them, be under obligation to no one, meaning the law. But he says, the only obligation you have is to love one another. So when we read verses like bear with one another, it is saying that we cannot allow ourselves to take offense with another person. It's saying that we must not hold anything against another person. When we look at people, we have to look at them through the love of Christ and see the potential of Christ in them. The passage that we read out of Colossians 3 tells us that we are even to forgive as the Lord Christ Jesus himself forgave us. Sometimes I know that we forget, and I don't know how we do this, but we forget that Jesus forgave us. Even when we weren't worthy, Jesus forgave us. He forgave us when we didn't deserve it. He forgave us when it wasn't merited. But God's word says he freely forgives. And so should we. So our takeaway today is this. Forgive and love each other. Let's stir each other up. Provoke each other to be the church. And do not allow anyone to just be a part of the crowd. The body of the church must be characterized by interdependence and not independence. If we work together, we can be a powerful, powerful tool and a powerful weapon for Jesus in our community. As our praise team comes back to the front, I want you to think about your own relationships that you have right now. It may be with a family member, it may be with a spouse, it may be with a coworker, maybe just someone that you're sharing life with. Let me ask you, are you holding a grudge? Or are you holding something against another person? Because if you are, I pray that you hear from the Holy Spirit today and know that's not of God. But today, let's love. Let's forgive in all our relationships. With every head bowed and every eye closed, let's just go into a time of meditation. And you may be here today and you may feel as though you've been wronged by someone. Maybe you're the one who's the thorn in a relationship. You don't want to admit it, but you are. Maybe someone hurt you and they don't even know that they did it. But God's word tells us it doesn't matter. Regardless of what took place, we are called to bear with one another and to love and to forgive so that the work of Jesus can be done in our world. We must rise above the worldly issues. We must become Jesus because the name of Christ must be shared, and then we must become second to the glory of Christ in our world. Every head bowed, every eye closed. Let me just ask you here today. Even in the church, if you feel like you're only a part of the crowd, would you be so bold as to raise your hand? Amen. See, my prayer, without knowing who, because it doesn't matter who raised their hand, but my prayer is that at Aztec Church of the Nazarene, we are never just a crowd. So maybe we have to take a personal step back. Maybe we all need to look inward and reflect, am I the one Am I the one who's causing someone else to feel like they are not a part of the church? Because if so, we have some work to do. Dearly Father, Lord, I praise you. I thank you, Lord. You're a great God. And sometimes you give us a hard word to hear. But Lord, never let us cower down from the truth that is your word. But help us to face it. And it's going to look a whole lot different for me than it is my brothers and sisters, Lord. But help each and every one of us to be more like you. Regardless of who the relationship is that we're battling, regardless of what it is we're going through, regardless of the feelings that we have and we're hanging on to, give us the power this day, Lord, to forgive and to give you glory. Lord, fill us with your Spirit today. Send your angels to surround us, to be with us. Because it is only through your power we can remove these feelings that may not be of you. Help us to move past them. Give us that strength. And Lord, the second part of my prayer would be, help each and every one of us to know that we are welcome in your church. We are also called to be here each and every time the doors are open so that we can be an encouragement. There may be times we feel like we don't have to go to church. But if you're not here, I guarantee there's someone who's missing you. And you can't be an encouragement to others if you're not here. So Lord, fill us with your Spirit this day in every word, thought, and deed. And help us to trust in you. Lord, we cannot do this on our own. But help us to put all of our trust in you.